We are here on another episode of Address It. I'm here with Brett McNeal, but he's more than Brett McNeal. His accolades speak for themselves. You got a state champion, Mr. Basketball, and the list goes on. You know,
Well, I appreciate that. Glad to be here.
for sure. So we were talking about your new position, or not new position, but your athletic director position at Edison.
Athletic director at Edison High School, been there 9 years in that capacity, been with the district 11 years, and 2 of those 9 years as athletic director, I was over at the South High School.
Okay. So how was that different? But you know how you do that. You know, how was that not being able to coach and then
Well, I feel like I've always been coaching, right? That's part of who I am. Not necessarily coaching on the basketball court, but in my capacity, I feel like I coach coaches to help them be better coaches to the student athletes that they're coaching in respective sports. But I love it because it keeps me around the game. So I don't feel like I'm working. I'm doing what I've always done, and that's somewhere on the field or basketball court, but certainly working around student athletes.
So what's the job description of an athletic director?
We're really managers. We're administrators. So we supervise all events, activities. We plan those events. We supervise the security and safety of all our guests and all our students. We schedule games, hire, supervise coaches and players. We determine eligibility with the State High School League. And we work with the principals on the academic side in terms of eligibility and with the community at large. So there's a lot of things that go into the profession of an athletic director. And over the years, we've worked hard to solidify the fact that we are exactly professionals, right? So I'm a CMAA, which is a Certified Master Athletic Administrator through the National Interscholastic Athletic Administrator Association. I have my master's degree in athletic administration. And my degree from Western Kentucky is in communications. I have a background in human resources. Prior to that, I was 20 years plus working in human resources. And so understanding policy, the eligibility rules with the NCAA and the State High School League rule, understanding how to put those practices, HR practices in process, how to plan events and supervise, it's all of that.
Yeah. So as far as like how people change schools, transfer, a lot of it was like, man, them athletic director is tough over there. What type of athletic director are you?
Well, I'm the kind that's going to stick to the rules, man. That's the bottom line is, we are governed by policies and rules. And the first thing to do to get in trouble is fooling around with money. Don't take care of the safety of the people that come around facilities, or you violate any NCAA or State High School League or school policies and practices. So we're that rule governing person. So we do get the perception that we're the hard-nosed guys or girls that are working in this field. But we're really about safety first, right? So everything we do first governs safety, and then trying to put on a fun event for our guests that come and watch us and the students that participate.
Were you a better player or coach?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that, but I feel like I was a better coach. Most likely, most coaches that played first would say that, from the simple fact that when you're playing, you have more control over an outcome of a game, right? Because I'm actually participating as a player. As a coach, your role is more of trying to identify the strengths and weaknesses of each individual player and then the team, and then helping them stay engaged and executing whatever game plan you had, while at the same time trying to out-chess match your opponent who's doing the same thing. And you have to learn how to do that when you come from actually playing where I feel like I have an impact. Very few players can become great coaches. So I won't say I'm a great coach, but I thought I was good at it. And there are quite a few out there even right now.
Because you had I would call it like a coach, one of the first Coach Carter type styles of coaching, don't take no stuff, accountable,
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm old school. I grew up in that environment, right? And there's a couple of things that I had grew into. right? I had to learn how to ease back off of that, right? But studies show that kids want three things. They want to know that who's ever supervising them love them, like they're there for them. They're going to go to bat for them. So I try to be that coach. Two, they want to have fun. So I wanted to make sure our kids always have fun. And three, the kids themselves are always saying we want people to hold us accountable. And many times coaches, supervisors do the first two things, have fun, kids love them, but they don't always hold the kids accountable. And I try to do that. And so the kids that play for me will say that, like, man, coach, we loved you. At the time, sometimes we didn't appreciate what was happening. But as we've gotten older, you really were trying to get us ready for life. And that's really what I tried to do. And I also try to teach and I learned that there's a difference between accountability and punishment. I never wanted to punish a kid, right? I just wanted to hold them accountable. And I think new coaches have to learn and understand how to do that, because there's a major difference.
How you think your coaching style would do today?
Well, like anything, right? To be good at it, you have to change and modify to the the times, and it's changed. I will still hold kids accountable, right? I still gonna make sure they have fun, and I'm gonna definitely make sure that I got their back. That I'm gonna fight for them, right? That their issues and their concerns are forefront, and they're not out there by themselves.
Did you think they would have had a hard time adjusting though, like even more so than?
Well, I know I wouldn't coach today like I did then. And I've already made those changes as I'm coaching. To me, it's part of the maturation of growing and coaching and getting wiser as you get older. But I will say this, each team is different, right? And you really coach to the players and the team that you have. And many of the guys I coach could handle that. Like, they were okay with that. And then I also think in coaching, you kind of have to have the perfect storm, right? You have to have that community behind you, have to have those players and those parents that support you, have to have an administrative team that supports you, and you've got to have a coaching staff that supports you. And being born and raised in North Minneapolis, playing there and going to state tournaments, winning Mr. Basketball, I felt like I had that. And so I had a little bit of freedom to coach differently at North than I did when I was helping Reggie Perkins at Bloomington Kennedy, or when I coached AAU basketball and stuff like that. It was a great place. North High School, I'm going to tell you right now, is one of the best places to ever coach and play. The environment, there's nothing like it. And I've always said, if you can coach at North, you can coach anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about a little bit. So as a player, you play for North, you win championships, Mr. Basketball. Did you always know you wanted to coach North?
No. It was interesting, I never even considered coaching. Right?
Even coaching, period?
Coaching, period.
Okay.
Again, we grow, we mature, we find out our niche, right? I played as a means to earn a scholarship, because that was my way out, right? I knew I wanted to go to school. I loved school. I knew I wanted it. But financially, it was very tough for my family. And so getting good grades and honing my skill in that basketball court, I knew was my way to get to where I wanted to go. But as a point guard, combo guard, and particularly a point guard, you are a coach, right? You are in sync with your coach, and you are really the coach on that court for that team. And so when I got through playing many years later, I found myself gravitating back to the same courts I grew up on, North Commons, Jerry Gamble's, YMCA, North itself, and just helping kids. And many kids didn't even really know who I was. I'm just out there trying to help them play the game that they love. I could see it in their eyes. And from there, some people said to me, Brett, you really should be coaching because you're good at it. I didn't know that I was.
So what's the first position you took?
My first head coach was North High School. Couldn't ask for a better position at a better place because the environment is so difficult. It is so tough. Like I said, you're going to learn that job fast or you're going to fail fast. There's no in between.
Your first job, okay. So before that, what was it, AAU or?
I did AAU, and I was just helping folks in the community. I helped Khalid, right? When I say coach, I'm talking. Sometimes it was I see you or some guy shooting. Hey man, come let me show you something. Let's get over here and do something.
Yeah.
And I play them one-on-one, right? One of the best ways to help a kid develop is to play them one-on-one and help build their confidence, right? Don't let them get too big, but at the same time, you know, really give them great accolades when they're doing something well. They shaky, go to the basket, score what you close it out on them. I love that. I loved giving the young kids confidence that they can do whatever they feel like they could do.
What would you say the biggest change is in the game odds today?
Well, over my period, there's been a couple things. One, weights was a game changer, right? When I came out of high school back in the mid-'80s, no one was lifting weights. So I went through a period with weights, training, Pilates, all these new things. That's one. The technology has changed. That's very different. And the game itself has changed. So you look at the physicality has changed, how officials call the game has changed. And I think the biggest issue right now, besides social media, has been the game has turned more towards entertainment than really truly skill set, really understanding how to play the basketball game. That to me has been one of the biggest changes in this era.
How does it change to that though? Like, why do you think it goes from that? A lot of people say that though.
Well, I think social media was a huge change in that, right? You know, back in the day, you didn't have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all those things where you can post pictures or videos. It was word of mouth. Even before me, Dr. J was known by word of mouth. And so when he showed up at the Rutgers Park to play, you know, we see the videos, I tell you, it was sold out. They heard him, never seen it. And then after they saw it, word of mouth put it out there. Now a kid can post a video of their workout or game and it goes viral and everybody knows. That changed the game to entertainment, because if a guy could shoot real well or handle the ball real well, you know, the whole idea of breaking ankles and wooing the crowd, right? Kids started trying to do that versus really trying to understand, how do I play? Spacing, how to move without the ball, how to set good screens, how to use the screen, right? Managing the clock, tempo of the game. Those are things back in the day we were forced to learn how to do. And many of us, you know, if we had a great talent and ability and could do that, you know, you were that superstar. Now, if you can really just make the crowd woo, move, have 1.2 million followers, you'll get by in your athleticism, but I'm not really sure you understand how to play the game.
But it's gonna catch up with you at some point though, ain't it?
Well,
Or not so much?
you know, there's always, everyone has their own opinion. Let me put that. And to me, everybody's opinion is worth something. It doesn't matter whether I agree or not, or whether they agree with me or not. But some people, I play pro. Don't matter what Brett's opinion. Man, I'm in the pro. Brett, you didn't play pro. And that's fine. So I don't know how to answer that question, because I'm not quite sure how you would evaluate that.
So like some people you feel play the game the right way, who would you say in the NBA
Oh my God, Magic Johnson understood how to play the game at every level.
today?
Kobe Bryant did. Michael Jordan did. Stephen Curry does when he's not shooting bad shots, right?
Curry shoots bad shots.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They usually say it ain't no bad shot for Curry.
That's why I say everybody has their opinion, but and I respect that. We don't always have to agree. Doesn't mean I don't like him. We just don't agree. But I think he takes bad shots. And one reason why I say that is because everybody doesn't shoot like Curry. And so if a kid's watching that, right? If a young kid's watching that, they're going to start trying to do that. And I see it all the time. As an official, I'm a high school official. I see it all the time. I see it as an AU coach. I see it when I go to the games and watch kids play. And I'm thinking, why are you shooting that shot? Well, I see all the other pros doing it. But you don't shoot like him.
The year you won Mr. Basketball, what was your stats that year?
I probably had over 20 points a game, if I remember correctly, probably about 5 assists and 5 or 6 steals.
Did you guys win it that year?
No, we took second to White Bear Lake, and we took second to White Bear Lake my junior year. And that was tough because we were ranked 23rd in the country. We had my record in those years were 54-2. I don't know that anybody has ever had a record like that other than White Bear Lake, who went 54-0. Right.
Who was on that team?
On our team was myself, Doug Carter, Tony Adams, Jeff Robinson, Coleman on that team? No, Seth Jones, Bobby Walker, Billy Ross was on that team, or some of the names that I can remember. You date me now, that's 30 almost 40 years ago.
So what year did y'all win it?
My high school year, we didn't win.
Y'all didn't win it in high
I
school?
won it when I came back and coached.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that was in 2003.
So you didn't win it as a player. Mr. Basketball as a player. Okay. And then the year you won as a coach that was the year with Kevin Henderson?
That was Kevin Henderson, Cameron Taylor, Justin Burgess, James Davis, that group of guys, which was those first 2 years. Every year I coached was great, but again, teams were, each team is always different.
That was the only year you won it, though.
Mm-hmm.
What was that team had different than the other teams you coached?
I would say those kids were a little more mature. For their age, I thought they were older. I think that they were streetwise. And I do believe that those kids really, truly loved the game and really, truly wanted to win. Right? I had some other teams and some other players like that. We just didn't win. But when I think about that group of guys, again, it was my first year, so it was a huge change. It was a huge difference. And we came in there with some fresh ideals. But again, I go back to the support, right? They knew me, right? Some of those kids, I was in the hospital when they were born. So it's different, right? That's like my godson. That's like my own son I'm coaching. So the relationships were already built, right? I'd already been in the gym playing with them and against them as they were growing up. So we were able to bond. It wasted no time for us to connect or get on the same page as a coaching staff and as players.
So, did you preach like physical play?
Yeah, I taught. Well, again, I felt the teams that I coached with the environment at North High School, there were so many kids that were Division I players, and so I took what I learned at the professional, semi-professional, and college level, and I brought that down to the high school level. I said, you're going to play like you're a college player, right? You're going to figure out what it's really like to play at the next level, because I felt that they were ready for that, right? Mentally and physically, they were ready for that. And so our practices were much, much harder than our game. And they'll tell you that.
So, did you see Kevin Henderson punch Chris Humphreys?
No, I did not, because, of course, I'm coaching and caught up in the coaching. But I heard that later, and then I did review and watch the video. But, no, I did not see that. And again, I'm not going to say that was a punch or intentional, but it was a very physical game.
I think it was, I think it was basketball. I think that was the era.
It was a very physical game.
I love that play.
Well, that's another example of what I said. And again, we're talking about Humphreys,
Yes.
who was a Mr. Basketball, great player, a college one and done, and a pro player, right? So again, that's what I'm going to change. It was a much more physical era, right? And a much more intense basketball playing. So, but you could see the level of players that were on the floor at that time. Right now, I don't think that we have schools that post 8, 9 Division I players, and arguably 6, 7 of those could go pro. Not on one team or not on 2 teams on the floor at the same time.
So, if you had to create a Mount Rushmore for Minnesota basketball,
Ooh.
4 people on a Mount Rushmore, what would you say?
I can't name them all, but I'll tell you where I can start, right? I would start with every year's Mr. Basketball finalist list. I would start there because in order to get there, right, you have had to produce good numbers, not always necessarily win a state tournament, but you have to do that. And with that being said, quite a few of my top 4 will be out of North High School.
We can't get a.
Well, we got 4 Mr. Basketballs that'll tell you by yourself.
Okay.
Right? There's 4 Mr. Basketballs.
Can you name the 4 for North?
Oh yeah, Red Overton. I watched him play. Game was so physical back then. I'm not even sure I could have gotten on the floor of that group.
What year? How far?
He won in '80. It was either 80 or 81.
And then you came.
And then I came out in '85. Derek Rubin in 1988, and then of course Khalid El-amin.
That's all guards, right?
Red Overton, believe it or not, at 6'1" or 2, played center. And he played against some beasts, right? You're talking about Kevin McHale. You're talking against Jim Peterson. But he was that tough of a player.
You talked about it a little bit, but the North coaching job, though, just speak to it, and it just not a regular job, and
I'm speaking my truth, right? This is my opinion. But I think I got some qualifications to put some thought to this, right? I've been there as a player. I've been there as a coach. I've been in other gyms watching great players and great teams play. I'm a high school official, so I've officiated, and I've coached at different schools in different capacities. Then the only other gyms that I could think of that have had the same intensity that North has would be the old Minneapolis Central and St. Paul Central. Because when you walk in that gym, for one, it's always, it was anyway, a standing ovation. It's hard to get in there. The environment intensity level is so high. You've got a ton of athletes on the floor. But what also makes North High unique, everybody in the gym is coaching. You can say what you want. You are coaching against everybody in the gym. Your score table is trying to outcoach you. The fans right behind your bench are coaching your kids on your bench. The fans, top 5 rows from inline to inline, are on the other side out coaching you. The security guards and the police officers on the baseline are trying to outcoach you. So, you are coaching against everybody in the gym. You don't find in other gyms. In other gyms, I might be sitting next to you going, does he not know they're in a zone? At North, hey man, they're in a zone. Man, do this, get over there. They are coaching.
Oh, okay. So
the whole gym is coaching.
Yeah.
They are vocal. That's the environment. It's what's expected. And so many people don't know how to handle that, right? You're not coaching 10, 12 guys on your bench. You're coaching the whole gym.
So how did you navigate that?
I grew up in that. I can remember being a 5th, 6th, 7th grader. I'm in the stand.
So you don't mind it?
I was used to it. That's what made it hyped, right? It's the environment. You have to know that, right? You have to want it. You have to look for it, right? And so.
But do you look at it like help, or do you look at it like they're trying to outcoach you?
No, I looked at it like it's their love of the game, right? Every fan comes to the game. They buy their ticket to do something, right? Some people buy their ticket to heckle officials. I mean, that's just how they enjoy the game. Leave them folks alone, right? They do. They come. It's just heckling officials. Some people come to put their 2 cents on the mic, right? It could be their son, their cousin, their nephew, if it could be their niece, whatever, right? They got the 2 cents on it. Some people come and out coach you. You just got to know that. Man, I can coach better than Brett. They coach it, right? I think that's part of the environment that makes it so fun but at the same time so challenging.
Yeah, but some coaches have said recently too, coaching from the sideline is like should be like a no-no. You know? Like it's outrageous. Don't coach from the sideline.
Well, I'll say again, right? If you can coach at North, you could coach anywhere. Because it has always been like, I'm going to say it again, I don't see that. I'm an official. I coached at other schools. What you find in North High's gym, you're not going to find in other schools. The closest I could come to growing up back in the day was Minneapolis Central or St. Paul Central. But you're not going to find that. So again, it's the environment you have to understand and appreciate and love, but you do definitely have to manage it. And I think it was a challenge for quite a few coaches that have coached at North.
So for the latest on coaching, you know, Khalid El-amin, you know, the Ricky Davis hiring with Khalid El-amin situation. Right now, there's about 1,200 people, 1,200 plus people on a petition, you know, that feel that Khalid El-amin should have that position. I just want you to speak a little bit to that situation. What was your reaction when you found out?
I was hurt. I can tell you that. I was hurt. I had to go see Khalid for myself, right? I found out about that after he made a post. And I love Khalid for his maturity. I love Khalid for his silence. But I love Khalid for being able to express his pain as a former player, Mr. Basketball, jersey retired at this building, Mr. Basketball jersey retired hanging on the wall. First year, 3 state championships at this same school, right? Under 3 different structures, and people don't talk about that. He was the first to do it. I love Larry. Larry's done a great job. Robin Ingram and Khalid El-amin were the first to do it. Him and Jabari Washington and that crew won 3 first. It wasn't Henry under Larry. It was Robin Ingram and Khalid El-amin. And, you know, first year in college, you're Final Four. Second year, you're a Final Four champion. And then you go on to have a good career in the NBA and overseas. So he's done so much in the community when he owned his fish shop up there on Penn. I call it Penn and Broad. McNeal, I think it is. He's always been in the gym trying to help. When I coached, I asked him to come help me. He didn't even bat an eye. He said, "Bro, I'll do whatever you need me to do." And he showed up and did it for me. So he's been there for us. And so I read his post and I felt his pain. And that hurt.
But do you think, well, first of all, so you're an athletic director. How do I guess a traditional hiring process go for a new coach?
Well, you asked the right question in the sense that you have to establish a hiring process, right? And people can do that, can structure that however they want.
And when you say people, who are people?
Administration, right? When I talk about hiring process, HR in conjunction with the athletic director and the principal or assistant principal, that administration, they set that process up, and then you go through that process. So, to my knowledge, they set up a process where they had a committee form. Whoever passed through the HR qualifications were able to get to a first interview with that committee, and then there was a select group of 2, I believe, that came out of that committee group and then was recommended to the principal and second person, and they made a hard decision.
So even to become a contestant, you have to go through a HR process?
Well, yeah, so when you apply for any job, right, that's not going to change. You have to pass a background check. You have to meet whatever minimum qualifications were established in that initial HR process. Right.
So if you pass that, you're able to work there if they give you the job.
Well, so what happens is, so I apply for a job. HR would look at that. I would, as athletic director, and say, yep, they meet the minimum qualifications. Again, I don't know what those were, but that's what you do because that's what I do. And then I would pick out however many people I wanted to interview. I could have 10 high qualified candidates. then I have to look at that and say, okay, I'm gonna interview the top 5 because I'm just not gonna take all 10, right? That's just too much. So I try to rank them as best I could with the help of some other people. Then I'll bring a top 3 or 5 into an interview. Then I'd have a separate committee to interview those 3 to 5, and then we'll try to pick 2 if we can't get 1, and then we'll submit that on to a second committee to make a recommendation for a hire. And then when you make that recommendation,
so it's 2 different committees though.
That's how I typically do mine.
Okay.
And then if I were to offer you the job, for example, it's contingent upon passing the background check.
Okay. Okay.
So it's always a contingent hire.
But you say 2 different ones though. So like, are you a part of the second one? Would you be?
If I do, but again, that's why I said the process is important, right? So to me, you're asking the right questions. So if I was meeting with that body, those are the questions I would ask them, because I can only speak generally what I would do at Edison. But the way I do it doesn't mean that a person couldn't do it differently. You see what I'm getting at? So I explained how I would do it. But when you meet with MAURI or whoever, you're asking the same great questions you're asking me are the same great questions you should ask them about their process.
So what about appointing? Is that allowed?
Oh yeah,
That's one of the process.
Yeah, you could set up an appointing process. People have done that.
Can you just explain a little bit how appointed will go?
You just appoint the person to the job.
So
You don't go through an interview process. You
Right.
appoint them.
They just put in their background and
And then they pass the back. So you say, hey man, we're appointing this person position contingent upon passing background check, and they get the job. And that's happened for various different reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what type of reasons.
You may only have 1 applicant, right? You may have no applicants, but the position opens up, right? And then at the last minute, you might get a teacher or somebody that we know of coach. You might it may be a situation where a coach quit in the middle of a season. So you appoint that assistant coach or one of those assistant coaches. So there are various reasons that you can legally do that.
So do you feel that how do you feel about the decision? I mean, I understand you're hurt because of who it was, but as far as like, do you feel the best man got the job?
Not for this time. Again, my opinion is no reflection of how I feel about the gentleman hired. I don't know him like that. I know Khalid. In my opinion, knowing that community, knowing what I've accomplished there and how, being an athletic director in this environment, knowing Minneapolis, public schools, etc., my best hire for that position was Khalid El-amin. That would have been my pick, right? I'm vocal about that. I'm not hiding that. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that I don't hate or dislike North or any of the people involved in that process. But I personally believe that Khalid El-amin was the best hire for that job at this time.
So you don't know anything about Ricky Davis as far as like.
All I know is Ricky Davis is out of state. Ricky Davis played professional basketball, and Ricky Davis, I know that's what I know. And then I heard he coached an AAU.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. He doesn't have much coaching experience.
But I didn't. Right. So that's why I talk about timing, the other variables, the other factors, right? So my opinion on that is couplefold. One, I will always respect a process, and I respect the process North established. I don't have to agree with it, but I expect it. 2, Khalid El-amin is and was the best person for that job, in my opinion. And 2, I always go with the decision is with who was responsible for the decision. MAURI is the buck stops at the boss, right? But again, my opinion, what I like, again, does not mean that I don't like MAURI, does not mean that I have a vendetta against her or against Ricky Davis. I am a North High School fan. I want our kids successful. So I'm going to roll with the hire and make sure our kids are in the best place. That's what I'm going to try to do.
So, I mean, as far as like North Community High School is North Community, how far do you feel like the community?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm hurt by the decision, right? Khalid has been overlooked for this job about 5 or 6 times. Most people don't know that. See, I know that because I was there twice. And the 2 times that I stepped down, he was overlooked both times, right? He was overlooked this last time when Larry was hired, and he was overlooked now when Larry left. This guy, in my opinion, has done all he can do for us. And I feel like with his credentials, with his community involvement, he's already a proven high school coach. Again, you have to know that gym. You have to know that community. You have to know those families to really lock in and be real successful. Ricky could do that. But I believe Khalid can do that, right? I don't have to guess that, right? He's doing it at St. Thomas right now, right? You have a different community.
It's like there's
a community that doesn't look like us.
2 things could be true.
Yeah, that has accepted him, and he's doing very well at St. Thomas. He's had a great first year at St. Thomas.
So, I guess I want to ask, basically, can it be overturned? Like, how does that work?
Anything, in my opinion, can be overturned. That just rests on the powers of being the decision maker, right? So, I mean, anything can be overturned.
Right.
You know, the same community had an issue earlier in the year where a supposedly decision was made. And then a different decision was made. Same school, same community, right? So anything can be overturned based on the powers that be. It's a decision that a person has to be willing to make. Happens all the time. Ed Graff, before he stepped down, made a decision to terminate teachers. The board overturned it. After the board originally gave him, again, I'm alleging this part, but.
But what would that mean for Ricky, though? Like, what is that? You got lawsuit or what?
Anybody can sue now. Anybody can sue you. Somebody can walk in and sue us right now for having a conversation. Now, whether they're successful with their lawsuit, that's a different thing. But anybody has a right to sue for any reason. But I've seen situations where people sued and the powers that be counted costs, paid him off, and bye, kept it moving. So the questions you're asked, I think, are the right questions. I'm not necessarily, in this case, the person that can answer more specifically. I can generalize that has happened in the past and it could happen.
The pay cut, he would have been taking a pay cut if he accepted the position.
That's another thing that I factored in anyway. I know after working at North as a coach, the year I came in 2001 was the year they froze our salary. It was this last contract that they increased a little bit. That's 20-some years, 22 years I think it is that so I know how much they're making. When I left and went out and coached in another district, I was making more money as an assistant coach than I was making as a head coach at North. That's another reason why I believe that Khalid should have received this job. He was willing to risk his job. He was willing to take a pay cut to come back home and coach at North.
So how does that even work, though? I mean, I know this. I don't know if you've seen something like this before, but how does that work? I mean, what is St. Thomas athletic director thinking?
Well, I don't know specifically, but at the time that I was at another district, I was making $12,500 as assistant. I wasn't making that at North. And really, I didn't even take a salary, but I'm saying the salary at the Minneapolis Public School District at the time didn't come close to that. And that's a public argument we've made since I've been an athletic director. our coaches and what they're expected and required to do, our population, the whole nine, we should at least be paid equal or closer to what other districts are paying their coaches.
But I mean, like, in your opinion, would they have the right to? I mean, he's been silent for sure, but I'm saying like just the amount of attention.
Who?
St. Thomas. Would that be an issue? The amount of attention for another coach.
Well, anything could. What I will say. What I could say to that is they don't have to say anything. They've got a great coach. If I was St. Thomas, I wouldn't say anything. Y'all turned down a great coach. Whew. We dodged a bullet because he's going to do great at St. Thomas. Khalid El-amin is going to do a great job at St. Thomas. I'm not even doubting that.
If you could tell me just like a crazy story, a North story that stick out in your brain, hoop or some a game that you went off, or just some, I don't know, some from back in the day, good memories.
Well, all of my memories at North were great.
Yeah.
One of the craziest memories that I had as a player was playing a state tournament, and one of my good friends does a 360. I'm like, what are you doing? Man, you ain't even you don't even jump. Heck are you doing? Pass the ball, right? You know, those are some funny stories.
He made it?
No,
not even close.
No. Like, what are you
Which
doing?
I was up by.
No, we was losing. That's why I said, what are you doing? Right? You gotta be kidding me.
It was losing, and it was close. Losing.
Yes. Like, what are you doing?
Oh wow.
You gotta be kidding me. One of my other, I had two other when I returned before coaching. I came back to watch North play in a state tournament the year that they beat St. Thomas, and that was a great win for me. The comeback, it was early in the 91 or 92, and they won that game, and I didn't think we had the personnel to beat them, but we had the heart. We won, and that was huge. And then, of course, the Khalid wins. Just the other great thing that I remember about North basketball is just our environment, man, right? And I talk about this. You're at full capacity. The fire department is shutting you down, right? You come to North High School. It's 10 degrees outside, right? And back then when we were playing, the ticket booth was outside. So the line is stretched down the little stretch, wrapped around 16th all the way into the back parking lot, right? And so people were literally leaving work early to make sure they got to North High School game.
It was at the freshman game.
They're leaving early, man, 2:30, 3 o'clock. Hey, I'm taking off. I'm out of here, right? We're going to see the game, right? And then as I've grown up, I've heard people say, man, we would drive from Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas. We took a weekend just so we could watch y'all play Friday night. And that's what I mean when the times have changed so much. We didn't have pro basketball, so high school basketball was it.
This
was mid-'80s.
80s?
Well, really late 70s, all of the 80s and in the 90s. And then, you know, you get in the gym, and we got the Lil Johnson drum corps, you got the cheerleaders, you got the band. And back then, it was a full house of sound. We were entertaining then, way before what they're doing now. And then the last great experience, I remember we played St. Paul Central at St. Paul Central. There was so many people in the gym. They opened the door, and the floor froze over. We were on ice rink, so we had to cancel the game, and we have a tie game on our record book because we couldn't play.
That's crazy. So McKenzie, he's a Hall of Fame coach in Minnesota. He's leaving. He's stepping down. Is that what he was stepping down?
He resigned.
Okay, he was stepping down. How much of an influence, and I know you don't know specifically, but how much influence would you think that a Hall of Fame coach has on the next hire?
Well, I'm an athletic director, so if one of my coaches left like that, I would certainly utilize his expertise in some type of capacity, but he wouldn't be my final decision maker.
But do you think, I mean, they both Hall of Famers, you know? They're both Hall of Famers in Minnesota. Do you think it's odd that that he kind of hasn't said that he has supported him and like recommendation?
I don't know. I don't know why. You'd have to ask Larry that. To me, it's a great question. I gave my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you gave your opinion. So I'm saying,
But those are my, that's what I'm saying. I can't criticize him for not. And I can't even speak to why he hasn't. I wish he would, but I don't know why he hasn't, so I can't really go there. I can just say what I think. Khalid El-amin should have been the person hired for the job, in my opinion, because I thought he was the best person at this time. Would I have liked Larry and others to open their mouths and say that? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, I guess as a Hall of Famer in Minnesota basketball, I mean, to me it just seems that I don't know, maybe it's like a brotherhood, or maybe it's like not a brotherhood. I shouldn't say brotherhood. That it's like a that you would look at him as a Hall of Famer, like, and if it came down to two, I think that I don't know, how are they not on the same side is what I'm asking.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. But that's a great question to ask Larry, I think, or even Khalid. See what his thoughts were. But I know we can't answer the question for Larry, and I know that without sitting down and having those questions, because some questions in some conversations it's dangerous to have publicly. I'll just say that, right? It's dangerous sometimes because you never know what political football someone's trying to put you into. So I'm always careful about that, right? I chose to do this because I don't have anything to hide. I feel like as an alumni, as a community member, a coach, at that school, as a player, what I know about our community and what Khalid has done for our community, I support him, and I'm saying that. But I also say I support MAURI. Like she's my principal at North, and MAURI has a process, and I'm going to support whatever that process is. Now, that doesn't mean I can't question that process.
And that's what I think the biggest thing is, the transparency. Because I think the community has proved that they support her as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a question of who supports her.
Correct.
I think it's, can you let the community in on what happened there? Because what happened there, we just don't understand, and I believe it's apparent and rightfully so. So like, as being a community school, I think that suggests that, let us in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what I can say about her, she agreed to meet. I mean, she leads, right? She does lead. For me, I'm big on that, right? Just lead. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We make mistakes, right? There are times when a decision we make people don't like, right? But leaders, that's our job. What I'm going to tell you that I know personally about North High School, it doesn't matter who they hire. That community's going to raise heck. I'm just giving you a fact. When they hired Queen, they raised heck. When Queen left and they hired somebody else, they raised heck. When they hired Robert Ingham, they raised heck.
Why? Why?
It's just our community, right? That's what I said. You know.
What was it over though? Was it over like they thought somebody else
should have been somebody else. It could have been. Why didn't they have it a long time ago, right? That's what happens, right? The game of basketball, football, and athletics in North Minneapolis, at North Community, is so intrinsic within the community, right? They have such a strong pack. That's why I talk about the gym and being able to play in it, and be able to coach it, and be able to come to those games and watch it. It's so much passion. It's so much a part of who they are that they're gonna be vocal. It doesn't. When they hired me, some of these same conversations were made, right? When they hired Larry, some of the same So I didn't expect anything different from North Minneapolis when there's a hire. So that's why I speak to MAURI as a leader, saying I will meet with the community. I will hear your concerns and talk to you, right? Because that's leading. That's what you do.
Hopefully that means that happens.
Well, yeah. To me, that means that she's understanding of the community, because that is who it is.
Lost my train of thought on that.
Yeah. Well, no, but just shared as we're talking, you know, that's why I said earlier, that's one of the fun things about coaching at North, right? You really get a chance to be a part of that family, to get included in that family.
So when you were playing, though, was your approach different than what? Can you talk about the approaches for kids today, and then when you were playing, as far as like?
Oh, yes. We were always in the gym. We were being kicked out of the gym. Right? The old term gym rat, right? Gym roach. Right, man, we can't keep these kids out of the gym, right? Lights go off, we're hiding at the bleachers. Right? Lights go off, we didn't have somebody proper door open. Right? We're getting back in the gym. One of the things that changes kids, they're not as I'm talking about as a whole, I'm not talking about one or two kids. You'd have 30 kids hiding in that gym somewhere, right? Because we ain't going nowhere. Same things with the parks, right? When I grew up, you ride by any park, there's a game going on, and you come over thinking you're going to play, you sitting in line waiting for the first game to end, and you look like, who got next, right? And I think for safety reasons and some of the societal changes, kids don't feel safe to be in the parks like that and participating. And I think that's hurt the game and hurt our community. So those are some of the things that I think have affected skill set, skill development. Because those small games at 21, right, those small games where you're playing all those different tag and 60 and hide go seek, those games equate to setting screens, how to use the screen, right? How to handle the ball, how to be able to dribble and look up and read the next, pass. You gotta take care of the ball with 3 people guarding you.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody got 18. Next shot went right, so it ain't 1-on-1. Right? It's 1-on-4-5. So your skills are able to be developed in a fun, unsupervised setting. Right? And nowadays it seems like kids won't do that. They need somebody there telling them what to do, give them direction, officiating, all that. So there's some things lost in that transition.
That's what I figured out. What I lost my train of thought. Community positions, though, like yours. Do you think it's important to have more of those filled with community people?
Well, yeah. I think that
Your position, all the administration positions.
I think that a person has a great understanding of that community has a good chance of being successful in that position if they have the skill set to do the job. It's a plus. It's not that you can't learn it. Like I've moved out of state or been out of state and had jobs because of my skill set. I was able to function those jobs, and then I eventually got acclimated and learned the community. But I equate it to if I took the same job in my own community where everybody knows me, that's one hurdle I don't have to jump through. Right? I know the landmines, right? I might know why is that kid behaving the way he's behaving. Well, I know his family, right? I know what's happening. Right? I know if something's going on that has nothing to do with basketball, right? So I can intervene much sooner in a way that I would know would meet that family's needs versus trying to learn that or then trying to reach out to somebody else to try to figure that out. And those are the things, again, why I'm going back to it's a piece that the other person doesn't have.
So one of the things, just to switch topics just a little bit. So one of the things about Trap Right, I like to highlight people that's doing the right things. So people, somebody in your position. Because you had to go to school for how long?
Wait a minute. This is messing me up. I'm going to cut this off. I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, good.
I should have cut these off. I didn't go to school for athletic administration. I went to school for communications. I was getting into what you're doing right now. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted emphasis on radio and speech communication. And I figured once I stopped playing, I would do something in the radio or do something into commentating or color. It so happens when I got out and came out, I've always been a community organizer, so my first job is I was in the community. And then from there into politics, and then from there into human resources, then from human resources back into the education system.
How many years did that equal?
Oh my God! So 4 years with my degree, I was 2 years, a year and a half doing community organizing. I went right into politics for 8, 9 years, and some of
But you're
my
not in school.
HR stuff. And I wasn't in school, and then when I got my master's, right, most people it takes 2 years. I finished my master's in 6 months. Right, most people get in a 2-year
Finish yours
program.
in 6 months.
I was humping it. I've always liked school, and I've always understood in Minnesota. This is important because people sleep on this. Minnesota likes to be proud of themselves in a sense that education is prominent, research is prominent, and certification is prominent. Unlike other places, they like to do that, create those types of systems. There's some other history from me about that, right, that affect people of color in general, and then push it out to the rest of the states, right? So a lot of jobs needing to be certified kind of came out of here, state of Minnesota. Redoing job descriptions to require specific expectations or credentials or degrees came out of this state, right? And so, you know, I had my kids and my family, and then when I got to a job that I loved again, but people didn't look at athletic administrators as professionals. That bothered me. Like, I'm angry about that. When people go after you and call you not professional, they think you're just an old retired coach. Well, I got a degree. I've got 20 years of human resources. I was certified there, right? So when I understood the environment I was in, I made it a point to prove people wrong. So I went on a certification track first, and I became an RA, a CAA, and a CMA in 3 years. Accomplished that when I started that process, and I got it. And people were surprised that I did. Like, how could you have done that? I said, I know it. I was determined.
Yeah.
And then once I did that, I decided I'm gonna go back and get my master's. So I just, like I did coaching. I mean, here's the goal, here's the plan, here's the steps we're gonna take. That's why I talk about discipline. Here's the grind, right? I'm grinding, so everything else gets put on hold. I ain't hanging out. Look, man, I'm gonna grind. I'm getting that goal, and you're not gonna get in my way. That's what I did, and that's what I teach, right? You got to teach that to people, because Minnesota is also, I think, a place that can make people complacent, because there's so many great things here that they can offer. So liberal in a sense. It's a double-edged sword. I think it lulls you to sleep, right? Tale of two cities. Really great in housing, economic, job creation, health, etc. But for people of color, we're way at the bottom. And so you have to understand it. Where other places, it's kind of set out. Blacks, whites, poor, rich. That's a clear-cut slate, right? And so you're on a grind, like, I'm getting out of here. Where here, they can kind of lull you to sleep.
But one of the things, though, I want to try to figure out how to highlight positive positions.
Well, I think you're
Fun
doing
way,
it.
you know.
I think you're doing it. This is a great medium. You know, when I heard you were doing it, that's why I was so excited to be here. Young fella, you know, cutting his stripes in color, interviewing, using the proper medium, and you're getting out there to a specific audience. And I want to see you help grow that. So for me, to me, that's another, let me help you do what you're doing, right?
Appreciate that, too.
You know, I had a lot of respect for you and your family, the things that you've done in the community, and what you do and what you bring back to us. So I'm excited and honored that you even asked for me to come. But to me, it's just identifying the people, right, and getting them out here, word of mouth, and then putting it out there so people can see your work. And it's fun to do interviews because you never know what questions I'm necessarily going to ask. We specifically didn't say the questions like I would typically do, right? My typically is I ain't doing no interview unless I got to say the questions, because I'm so aware of political agendas and stuff like that. But I didn't feel that I had to worry about that with you.
No, for sure.
Happy to discuss these issues.
I appreciate it, though, because sometimes there's conversations you shouldn't have, but then there's necessary conversations, too.
And I talk about that too, in the sense that so we've got a medium, this one, KMOJ and others, but sometimes there's conversations I think our community needs to have that aren't being had. outside the media, but we just need to have, right? So we just had to get together a week or two ago at Tat House. We brought back all of the old heads that played basketball before the Pro-Am, before AAU, before Howard Pulley, right? None of those things would have existed if these programs hadn't already existed, right? The games at Phyllis Wheatley, the games at North Commons, the games at the YMCA, right? And then trying to acknowledge those guys and females that participated in those things, very similar to what you're doing, right? And it was all about reconnecting, hugging, holding people accountable, healing old wounds and stuff like that. And we purposely did that off camera, right? Because there were conversations people needed to have that's just not for public. The conversations that need to be had, like you were saying, that we need that. There's a necessity. In order for us to survive, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to better, we have to sit down and have hard conversations about us. That's not for public consumption.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. For sure, though, I appreciate you coming. If you could just lead the people off with something, whatever. Any last remarks?
One of the things I've always been taught, every day you get better, you get worse, right? So always do what you can to be better. And then just continue to be a learner, right? You don't know everything. Keep on learning. Keep on striving to be the best you can be.
Sure. We have it on Address It, Brett McNeal.